I've been thinking about doing screen printing for a while now, just on and off, and it always seems so complicated and so involved. And in the 60s I had a hippie friend, and she used to do tie-dyeing and screen printing, and she said to me, come over and have a go at this. So off I went with my 3 kids in tow, and we had a go. So now I was pretty proficient at knitting and sewing and crochet, but I had never done anything like this. And after a short time I said, no, this is not for me, thank you very much. And off I went. And then just out of the blue, xTool approached us and asked if we'd like to have a try of their screen printing machine. And I first thought, oh, I don't know about this. So anyway, Paula and I had a cup of tea and we discussed it, and we looked at the specs and we thought, no, this looks pretty good. And we've got a few xTool machines, we've got 4 of their lasers actually, and we know that their stuff is always good. Their machines are always well built, and they're a very innovative company. So we thought, let's give this a go. So here we are, we have our screen printer here. Let's get on and show you how we use it. Now this is a big box and it's super heavy, so let's unpack it and see what's inside. There are different kits you can purchase, and we have the multicolour kit here. Now there's the manual, it's well illustrated and it goes into detail through the steps for using the screen printer. There's an adapter for the laser, there's more on that later, but it's a base piece to attach frames to our xTool D1. Now I just need to get the main box open. And oops, there's another box inside that. Now I'll just put that aside and continue checking out what's in this box. Now as you can see, this is the main body of the screen printer. And there's also some fixing pins, and I'll talk about them more later. There's an 8-inch ink spatula and a squeegee. Now back to the other box, and let's take a look in there. And here we find that we have some screen printing screens. Now these are all set up and all ready to be used in your laser engraver and then in your screen printer. And we've received 12 of these screen printing screens. And there's a nice heavy duty canvas bag all ready for you to print a design on. Now there's one cutting mat. Now if you have a die cutting machine, you'll recognise this, as it's similar to the Cricut or Scan and Cut mat. The difference is with this mat is it's sticky on both sides. Now there's a magnetic board. It's made of wood and it has metal parts on the bottom that hold the board in place on the screen printer, and I'll show you that later. Now we have some water-based paints. Now in this top layer we have 1 pot each of glitter silver, and nice little pot there, and glitter gold, and also some glow in the dark. And we also have some more fixing pins. In the bottom layer we have 2 pots each of the primary colours, so we have black, red, yellow and blue, and you can mix these together to make different colours, and you'll get quite a wide variety of colours. And we also have some more fixing pins. Now surrounding the foam piece that's holding the paint we have 3 frames, and these measure 11.5 inches by 16 inches, and they're used to hold the screens in place when you're engraving and screen printing. And finally we received some cardstock sheets. Okay, so that's the unboxing done, so let's put all this together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to loosen off these levers on the frame. And then I'm going to take my screen printing screen and I'm just going to lay it on top. Now you don't want this to fall down into the inside here. It actually has to rest on top. Okay, and you can see here it's got a cardboard layer there, and that cardboard layer fits within the frame. Okay, so once you've got that in position, you push down the tapes on the side, them down into the groove. There's grooves that run all along the machine, and push that down into the groove, and take one of the bars and then push it down into that groove, and then just once it's there, just push it flat. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And you want to pull it tight and just push it down. It's very stiff, that's okay, just work with it. And then take your bar, place it along the groove. Oops. Put that in right. Push it down. Now we do the same at this top end. take one of the smaller bars, if I've got this right, and then up here, don't push it in, because this one won't lock in place, it will simply just sit there, but you still push it into place. Oops. And it'll go flat. Now what we want to do is tighten the screen up. So we just take the levers on the side, pull them down, and they tighten everything in place. And don't forget the ones on the end. Okay, that should be like a drum. If it's not, then you simply undo the lever and go through the process again and pull the screen tight. But this is quite good. It's sitting in there nicely, and I'm just going to turn it over and I'll show you the back. We're going to be taking that out in a moment, but that's what it should look like. Now it's time to remove the cardboard piece that is on the base of the screen. It has some really sticky patches, so be very careful where you place it in your workshop. Ask me how I know that. Now to lift the edge, you can use your finger or you could use the end of your spatula. Just be very careful with it and just to lift that cardboard up. So once you get a good handle on it, just lift it up. And it doesn't matter if it cracks or folds at this stage, you don't need this piece again. Just keep pulling at it until you get it loose, and there you go. Now we need to take the magnetic board and attach it to the screen printer, and on the bottom of the board there are 3 spots where the magnets attach it to the machine, and this is easy to do. Now the board looks like it's made from a heavy plywood, and it has 1-inch grid lines marked on it, and you just move it around until it attaches to the base, and then when it's nice and firmly in place you'll certainly feel that it's in the right spot. Depending on the type of material you're going to be screen printing on, you have the option to use a sticky mat. Now if you choose to use it, remove the protective plastic sheet from the bottom of the mat and line it up on the magnetic board. I left the top protective plastic sheet on the top of the mat, and I'll remove it once I'm ready to add my medium. The protective sheet stops dust and debris from gathering on the sticky mat. And don't throw away those protective sheets. You'll want them for times when you want to keep the top covered, or you want to store the sheet when it's not in use. So for this screen printer to work, you do need a laser engraving machine. Now we have an xTool D1, and the kit we received had a fixing piece so that we could place the frame into the base of our laser. The fixing piece is designed to fit the xTool D1 Pro. Now we don't have the D1 Pro, but it did fit our older machine nicely. Now this piece also lines up extra frames if you're doing multicolours, however we're only doing one colour at the moment. Now it may work on other brands of lasers, but I certainly can't guarantee that. All I had to do now was slide the grooves that are on top of the frame onto the screws on the fixing plate. This holds the frame firmly in place while you're engraving your design on the screen. We are using the xTool Creative Space software, and as I mentioned before, we have the xTool D1, not the Pro version. Now if you have the D1 Pro version or an xTool S1, you will have the option in the software for screen printing, and you'll select that option from the drop down under Laser Flat. Now we don't have that option, so we contacted xTool and they gave us some settings to try using the laser flat option. And after doing a bit of testing ourselves, we came up with some settings that work perfectly. And just be careful where you position your design, and make sure you reverse the design if you're using text. The laser did a beautiful job of engraving the design, which we got from Creative Fabrica, and I'll leave a link for that file in the description field below. So far so good. We're pretty happy with how things are going. So now it's time to remove the frame from the laser and attach it to the screen printer. Just take your time and line up the grooves on the top end of the frame and slip them onto the screws at the top end of the screen printer, and once it's in place, push the levers into place so that it is held securely. Now I removed the plastic film and brought the frame down so that I could see the medium I was working with through the screen. Now this makes it easier to line everything up. If you aren't happy with the position of your material, just move it around until you are. Then press it down so that it adheres to the mat. Now the last thing you need to do is to bring the frame down into position. Press down on the frame to make sure it's firmly set in place, and tighten the knob on the side. And now you are ready to start screen printing. We applied some paint to the screen with a spatula, making sure that the paint wasn't anywhere near the design. Now you can see here where we have applied the paint, and it didn't take as much as I thought it would. I used way too much on my first attempt, so this seems to be just a nice amount. Now once you've got your paint into place, you take your squeegee and you draw it through the paint and over the design. Now on my first attempt I pressed way too hard. It's not necessary. Just firmly drag the squeegee over. And then take a look at your design. Just lift the screen up and you can have a look and see what it looks like. And if you've missed any bits or they're not as defined as you would like, then you can simply repeat the process. Now we also thought we'd like to give it a try on some fabric, and this is just regular quilting cotton, and we used the same design and the colour that we used on the cardstock, and it came out great, as you can see here. We were a bit worried about the paint seeping through to the mat, but as you can see here, it was fine. Now this was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I can certainly see this becoming a favoured hobby. Now xTool have certainly made screen printing a fun activity. Just imagine the fun you'll have when you're printing on t-shirts, cushion covers, cardstock and many other mediums. Absolutely brilliant. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And we'll have more information over on the website.